Content creation is a thankless business, and the struggle is far from equal. For video creators like me, we have many options. If I wanted to, I could forgo scripting by simply producing low-effort podcast-style videos with one static picture. Over time, this would garner me the same, if not possibly more, subscribers than I have now. But that same option isn't there for the hardest working people in content creation, modders. There may be smaller mods, but there's no such thing as a low-effort one. Even those intended for jokes have done things like put the entire nation of Russia into the game Morrowind, or allow you to become a Kryptonian in Grand Theft Auto 5. Modders are an essential part of any gaming community in my eyes. They make unplayable games playable, and make playable games into near-perfect experiences. Today, we have an interview with one such mod author working on an extensive addition to Conan Exiles, including a custom map heavily inspired by Beyond the Black River, thus Pictish culture. Without further delay, I give you my interview with Lieutenant Scaro. If you'd like to see future videos a week early, along with other unique content, go to the subscribe star link in the description box, select any tier to contribute, and sign up as a member of the Grimdark Army. My thanks to the current men and women in service, whose names are seen here. Grimdark. Half off! Please introduce yourself for the audience. We had horrifying technical difficulties starting this, but we're back now, and no one knows who you are, and you just met them for the first time, and you're in like a board meeting, you're in a hotel. It's Lieutenant Scaro. There's donuts, refreshments, there's croissants everywhere. They're listening to an inspirational speech from you. Who are you?
Oh, God. Don't get me that way. Jesus.
Okay.
I am Lieutenant Scaro, modder for Conan Exiles. I predominantly make maps. I have looked into other avenues, but haven't gone down that route yet, but I predominantly make maps. Everyone calls me Scaro, generally. So probably might take out the LT from the name, but we'll see. We'll see. The profile pictures that I tend to have skulls with hats, and they tend to be berets from the Irish Army. I'm also Irish, so there's that. So if anything, I'm sure people will tune in just for the accent, even if I'm boring. So there you go.
This whole time I thought you were a Nigerian, you fucking traitor. Okay.
Howard would be proud of me.
Yes, he would be. He had many comments about how proud he was of his own Irish ancestry.
He loves it.
So how long have you been modding for?
About 1.5 to 2 years. That isn't solid, of course. It's whenever I have time. It's generally most days I will get it, but because I have a full-time job, I'm married, so I spend time with my wife, I spend time with my friends. That takes a lot of my time as well. I have my dog as well. I love my dog. I like to spend a lot of time with there. I just mod when I can. It's about, I can actually tell you, it's about 1,200 hours total I have on the dev kit. Yeah, 1,236 hours and 22 minutes exactly. So I don't know how much that is in days. So if anyone wants to calculate that, feel free. I will not be doing that. But that's total.
All right. And you said before that this was not your first mod. Could you tell us a little about the other mods you've worked on? Where would people... Obviously, they would find you Lieutenant Scaro on Steam Workshop. But what mods would they be looking for if they want to get a taste of your previous work?
So the first map that I ever worked on was server specific. So I was on a server that I was playing on, a roleplay server. I played on it and I was staff on there for a while. I had no previous modding experience. I wanted to start previously when I was younger, of course, as we all do. And then we look into it and realize just how difficult it actually is. And put it to one side. Some people go on and do it, and fair play to them, but not me. I went off and did other things like play music. So I was on the server, and we had just come off we were just about to stop a season on Savage Wilds, and it was the first season where we were on a custom map. So once you have that kind of taste for a custom map, you don't want to go back to just the standard SIPTA or Exile lands that you've been on for thousands of hours beforehand, or hundreds. So the team and I were looking through Steam, going through all the various mods. There's lots of map mods, some bigger than others, and nothing was really exactly what we wanted. Some pieces here and there, and then there was some that were not supported anymore, some were dead, and it was not going our way. And I just decided one day that I'll just do it. I'll just jump into the dev kit. I learn by doing things anyway, rather than reading about them or YouTube tutorials or however, and I'll just do it. So I jumped in and started with just a custom Exile lands. Spent about 8 months altogether on it. It was released after the first month or two. Of course, that was just continuous development, adding dungeons, caves. There was just north of Seppermeru, there's a savannah that was redone into what I believe was a forest, if I'm remembering correctly. It's a bit ago now. And there was just a lot of dungeons. And that was the first kind of dip my toes into it. Of course, wasn't great, but I love level design, always have. So it was, once I got the itch for it, I had to keep scratching. So I started work while developing the first one. I started on my second one. And the second one was going to be an expansion into the northeast, where there's currently nothing really up there. If you've watched Eradication's video on it, where he travels up there, it's just random bits of landscape everywhere, or if you've ever teleported out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
just a brief note. Eradication was supposed to join us today, but he had he wanted to have a normal, healthy relationship with his fiancée, like a sane human being. What a prick. Anyway. No, but we wish Eradication and Moon well. But yeah, no. We'll probably hang out with them after this.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. If not today, it'll be later on.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one. Then I started working on the second one, which was going to be the expansion. With the expansion, I went with a couple of biomes. There was a Great Lake. In the middle of the Great Lake, I put a bit of a hill, and there was a temple there to Jula or Gula, because I love the story of Jula and Gula, the hairy one who lives on the moon.
Yeah.
Then there was, at the end of the lake, there was an NPC village. It was just Sumerian village. And the north of that, I guess along there, was the beach. Some islands. There was a Crescent Island. And there was Skull Island, which was just really tall and had a big fuck off skull on top of it. And it was like an ode to King Kong, of course, Skull Island. Then there was the Dark Forest. The server had beastmen and like werewolves and stuff, so that's where that would go on, really. They'd all live in there. There was about 200 spiders in the Dark Forest as well, which is a lot for a small area. Which is funny because next to it is the Shadow Weld, so-called. It's sunken into the ground. It's really, really big. Lots of water, and it's meant to be like a very foggy, swampy. It uses the giant jungle swamp trees from base game, and has like specific paths that you follow, or you can go through the water if you want, and you'll begin to wade if you're normal one height. Or you can take a horse and just go straight through it. But there's lots of like crocodiles around there, snakes and the like, and some tunha. And that area then goes up like a cliffs. If you can imagine the paddy fields, the way they're laid out, like they have the flat straight up flat in kind of that kind of way. It kind of went like that to spiral up, where it brings you back out into the normal highlands. And there was another cave there as well, like a Stygian expedition up there. But it was still very empty because it was probably too big, even though I had cut a lot of it out with the water, the Great Lake. It still felt too big. There was a Temple of Zat as well, which used the Zat avatar that you can use, and made it dark, changed it a little, have it frozen, and then you go under its legs and you open out into this spider-filled cave, which is also quite cool.
Well, I like that design. It's also heavily lore-friendly for a Zath, obviously for a Zath worshipper.
Yes. So all of my work, with the exception of commission work, which I don't really count because it's commission work, all of my personal work will always have a basis within Conan. Well, so after learning how to properly do it with the second mod, we then move into the third mod, which is the well-known one, the current one that kind of blew up, which was quite funny. You were going to ask a question?
No. Please continue with this. This is actually much more important for people to get a better background.
Oh, cool. Yeah, of course. So the bigger mod that people listening may or may not have heard of, they may have played it, is called Grim Map. It's quite popular. It's used by quite a few roleplay servers now. I like to keep in contact with a lot of the server owners as well, just so I can tell them this is going to update, here what's coming, plan around it. There's a lot in there. So in that one is where I put everything I had learned to use. And so if you can imagine where we'll start over probably in the west, where you come out of the north of Septimaria, you have that weird savanna that goes up north to the Mounds of the Dead. It goes really sharply up. I never liked that, so I flattened it all out, added some hills, some custom NPCs. The Hyrcanians live over there, and turned it into a giant steppe. There's wild horses, there's buffalo roaming. It's really, really nice. I then moved on to the expansion. So the expansion has a redwoods, and that's probably the most popular. The highlands into the redwoods is quite seamless as well. So you do notice you're going in, but it looks quite professional, which I'm very, very proud of. I do love the redwoods. And then north of the redwoods is a new snow area, which has new Nordheimer village, even though that's a bit of a weird term just to call them Nordheimer, considering Acer and Vanir don't like each other, but hey, we'll just leave Conan and Exiles out of that.
The eternal race war between blondes and gingers shall never end. Well, sadly, it will end. It'll end with a horrible flood, but it will end with a horrible flood. But being partly ginger, partly blonde, I can't pick a side, so it's tough. It's tough. Right. No, it's fine. I'm a swarthy individual. Since we're already talking about Conan lore and some of the more ridiculous elements, what was your first experience with media from the Hyborian Age? Was it books, the Lovecraft rabbit hole, games, shows, movies? What particularly led you down the road to Conan? So it actually started with the game Conan Exiles. So one of my really good friends, we had been playing Space Engineers. So we're big on survival games. We love survival games. So we were playing Space Engineers. There's me and a little crew that get together called the League of Evil, funnily enough. And we get together, we have like light role play aspects. We'll fight against each other, we'll have the crack, we'll move on to a new game. We had just finished Space Engineers and we were looking to take it down a notch. Let's move on to something maybe fantasy, maybe medieval. We're having a look around, and one of my friends from there finds Conan Exiles, boots it up, he has some fun, he invites the rest of us, we all go onto just some random server, we have some fun.
for a day or two, and then we go, okay, let's just get into an RP server because it'll be better. And I believe he had a friend on the server that I was on, that I eventually became staff on and made the maps for. And we all joined there, and our first characters were Darfari, which led to my deep, deep love of the Black Kingdoms. I just adore that entire area. I love going through the RPGs where they expand on the Black Kingdoms, the stories from there. The first story I read is The Jewels of Gwalar, which of course is in Kishan. And that was just the setting, the pacing of the story as well, the little bit yakin as well at the very start in the cave. Just made me think of Conan Exiles as well, because you have the caves of bit yakin there as well. Just loved it. So falling in love with Conan was through an RP server that based itself on Conan lore from all sources. And it was from there I kind of met more friends, of course, who are big Conan fans. And my love of Conan just grew into this massive thing. And then, of course, I get into Lovecraft as well. And that explodes, and the universes just take over everything. And, of course, I'm already a massive Tolkien fan, so now I have multiple universes that I'm trying to learn as much as I can about, read everything I can about. And it just plummeted from there. Just love it all. That's the reason for the new mod, to be honest. There's a lot of people who use Conan Exiles for roleplay, which is great. It's a great game for roleplay. Probably one of, if not the best, for just the roleplay on it. But I find a lot of the servers and a lot of people tend to go high fantasy. Now, I'm not against high fantasy. I just think it's probably a bit oversaturated. So, reading Conan, of course, and it's very grounded compared to having elves, dwarves, and wizards spell slinging everywhere, where you have predominantly humans, and it's their strife, their struggles, and there is some magic, but it's generally seen as evil, except in like Stygia and stuff.
Well, yeah, and I just want to add too, the fact that magic is so rare in the setting, it makes it also, if you were playing a tabletop, it makes playing a magic character all that more cool, because you are the bringer of the weird and the strange. It's not like this is just, oh, that's the mage from the Mages Guild. It's who's that evil motherfucker? Did he just bring my cousin back to life? Why is Gary trying to gnaw off? I don't know who Gary. I don't know what is. I don't know Gary the Sumerian. Why is Gary the Sumerian alive again? He was just a sheep herder yesterday, and now he's trying to rip off my thigh. Yeah, that's
I think it'd be Garode. That's the Gaelic. So the Gaelic for Gary is Garode. So it might be
Garode the Sumerian is trying to eat my Garode the sheep herder is trying to eat my thigh now. But we talked about you getting into this through Conan Exiles. So what do you see, because you've been in the modding scene, you got into this through gaming, what do you see as key to a good mod? What are the elements you look for that say this is well made, period?
For me, it's attention to detail. I think the perception that it's very easy to drop in, make a map, pump it out, drop it there, it's done, job done. We'll clap hands, we'll download it, job done. No, that's not how it works at all. If you just throw in some hills, some odd cliffs, janky terrain, and push it out, people are going to notice. And I think people do talk. Even if they don't talk directly to you, they'll be talking to other people. Servers talk to each other as well. So when you have something that isn't properly optimized, or in the case of mapping, which is my main go-to, if you have landscaping and I can come on your map and I can see that you've just thrown this together, I will spot it very quickly. And that will make me think, okay, there's not enough attention to detail here. But I pride myself on attention to detail, whether it's in the map modding, or in my real life job, because I have no choice but to be very, very attentive. I think attention to detail is the biggest one. Making sure you're testing your map, play your own map, get other people to play it, alpha testing, release testing, and just make sure that everything is as you actually want it. Because I think people, you have to be patient when you're making maps. And I think if people rush, if you're just trying to get something, maybe you only have an hour today and you want to get on, you want a map, and you want to put together your little house or a little NPC camp, just maybe don't when you have an hour. Maybe wait until the weekend when you have 3 or 4 to actually put into it. Maybe for your hour, just do a bit of foliage. Maybe do a pathway or a new cliff, or maybe just get out the pen and paper, do some drawings, get some sketches of what might come to mind, get some notes down of some lore pieces that you might want. That's what me and I, for this mod, I'm the developer, but I do have a little team. So I have like my lore guy, who is absolutely massively knowledgeable about Conan to a just disgusting degree. We will have little back and forth for half an hour. If I don't have time to go into the map modding, we'll go over, oh, what do we want to see? What do we want to see? Do we want to maybe have some callbacks to Volusia and Old Stygia because of the area we're in? The Atlanteans, maybe, because the Atlanteans, of course, fought in Volusia, and Volusia fought against the Atlanteans.
Yep.
Going back to Cold's time. So
yep, and they migrated out very, very far after the Great Cataclysm.
Exactly. So do we want to throw in like little tidbits there in caves? Or do we want to include this passage from this book? But of course, we're going to write it in the first person instead of as a narration. So do we want it to be in letter form or a tablet form? And it just goes on. And I think all that will show to people who will pay attention that you are putting in the effort and the attention to detail.
Well, you know, that actually it ties to a point that I was making in the intro that I wrote up for this. It'll be recorded and put together with this interview. And that's that, you know, modders just genuinely have it harder than, say, someone doing video content creation or something like that, because you can always say that there are mods that were quick or mods that add small changes. You can't argue that there was ever a mod, at least not one that's popularly known, because you know, like you've said, the bad ones, they just get left in the dust. They just get left in the dust. They're just, nobody's going to use them. There's no mod that you can say is ill done. I mean, this isn't on any kind of perceived question I was expecting to ask you, but what would you say that it's kind of like a passion or a trance that you would go into that allows you to have the energy to put this much effort into something, this much soul into something that is often very hard to craft? I mean, I describe modding as the hardest job in content creation, because that's what it is. You're creating free content ultimately, and that's just, it is your passion. So where does that passion derive? Where is it in your soul, would you say? I don't know. I don't mean to sound like a weird hippie.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I do feel like that. I just put the headphones on, get some music on, get into the dev kit, and I'm gone. That's me for a solid 3-4 hours until my wife calls me, or if I need to go somewhere, I'll need to go. But I have to make sure I have alarms set to take me out of that. As you say, it's like a trance. I think once you find a passion for something, whether it be content creation, modding, even in your job, because I also love my job and I have the same kind of feeling. I'm very lucky. You just get into work mode, and that's it. That's me done. That's 5, 6, 7 hours. Sometimes on the weekends. I know I've been guilty of this before, but my wife, bless her, she's brilliant. She supports me 100% and loves that I'm putting my creativity out there for other people to see rather than just keeping it to myself as usual. And sometimes 8-9 hours I'll do sessions on a weekend. I might start at 10 10 o'clock in the morning, end at 8, 9, go watch a movie, and then go to bed. So I do spend hours upon hours sometimes just in a trance, and I don't even notice the time going by. But I get lots of work done, and I think that's also the really good thing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Getting deeper into the mod itself, what was the main artistic vision you have for the mod? You told me earlier, you told me before the interview that Beyond the Black River played a big role. Could you expand on that more, please?
So the main vision is going to be to bring those stories and the lore of Conan as Howard saw it, rather than the expanded universe, but just purely as Howard saw it, and put that into the game. Because as I was saying earlier, a lot of people use it for roleplay, high fantasy. They don't really pay attention to what's going on around the world, because the Exile Lands isn't actually set anywhere in Hyboria, or the Hyborian Age, and Sipta is, but it's not mentioned in any stories. So if you take those out, and you are given a land, so it's Bosonia, is where it's going to be set in the region is called Tandara, and beyond the Black River is the Pictish Wilds, of course. So Black and Thunder River, you have Tandara smack dab in the middle, and it's always Picts are always constantly fighting with the Bosonians that try and the frontiermen that try and live there, and of course they're trying to set up their own little encampments away from the king in Aquilonia, because they don't want to be under him anymore, but of course he wants their land for farms. So there's a lot of story that I think is just overlooked. So me especially, but my team as well, want to bring in a lot of that lore to make people go, oh, I wonder what this is from, and they look it up, and suddenly they're finding the stories, and maybe they start watching your videos like yours, which I binge watch quite often, or they might end up watching Eradication's videos on the lore of Conan Exiles, or they might go and watch the Arnie movie, because that's a fantastic movie. Or maybe even they might read the Marvel comics, if they prefer like a comic book style. But I think there's this massive universe that people just don't really see, and I think if we can give them somewhere that's actually in the universe, like the Stygia map as well, that's being developed by Snowhunter, for example, which I have some work in as well.
Yeah, I had that pulled up earlier. I was looking at that earlier today. That looks just amazingly beautiful. Just like having an actual Stygia mod. Would you at all like to go in deeper on your help with that? What specifically would you say you were helping, or are you allowed to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm one of the dungeon developers for that mod. So I made the Cachetta sewers, which is quite a big dungeon, and I made another dungeon out in the middle of nowhere. It's doesn't really have a name, but it's full of traps and some Easter eggs as well, if you know where to look. But it's a very difficult dungeon, even though it's so small. That's my main contribution, other than me and Snowhunter go over a lot of the lore. He's a great guy as well. Good friends with Snowhunter, and like the design of some of the landscape we'll go over together. His next big city that he's planning to make is the one in the north. It's the I can't remember it right now, but it's the where all the market and trade happens. It's right on the river, and you can go there in Age of Conan as well. It's one of those cities. But that's the next one, and we were coming up with different designs for that, and I was helping with that. And the Black Pyramid is there as well. Actually, it's that place where the sorcerers are, not Cachetta, the other one. And yeah, so I help just in that kind of sense as well. But mainly, I made some dungeons.
Oh, are you talking about old Tarantia?
No, it's I can't remember the name of it right now.
That's okay.
It will come back to me at
Well,
just a random point, as usual.
well, it'll probably come to you in the middle of the night. Going back to the mod, what's your philosophy regarding the purge mechanics and enemies in the mod?
So I'm very very much of the opinion that if you're going to have enemies such as beasts are going to be fairly hard to kill. A boar shouldn't be two swings of a sword dead. It should be a bit more of a fight because you're probably not a high level. When it comes to the humans, I played with this a little in the map we spoke of before, Grim Map. There's a Pictish camp in the Redwoods with fairly okay braves and scouts, but the chief is really really difficult to beat because he hits hard. He has fairly high health, but not crazy health. But you have to learn his hits, or he's just going to one shot you. I repeated that steps in. There's another dungeon in Grim Map where you actually get transported over to Antilla, one of the islands of Antilla. And up the top you have a camp and an Antillan temple, and the chief there is a hard hitter as well, and he'll beat you pretty badly if you don't know the move sets.
Oh fuck! You have Zotli lore?
Oh yeah.
Oh good. I like
Yeah.
fire breathing Devil May Cry Conan people. Yes.
Yes, there is a Zotli temple with the chief is praying, and if you try and approach it, he will beat you very badly. But if you learn the moves, you're good.
Well, that segues great into our next question. What's your end goal for weapons and armor in the mod? How will we be slaying this Zotli-loving bastard?
Well, I want to go down the route of the... This is going to give away a couple of things, but that's fine. The initial base map will have up to obsidian gear and star metal. So it will have everything you need to go as far as you need with base Conan, base Exile lands meta. For those who are the PvPers. So it'll have Exile lands meta where you can't get like any Sipta gear. There'll be no Sipta gear in the main the main base map. Further down the line, Sipta will be introduced. And further down the line of that, there might be custom weapons and armor. There is an intent for the map mod to be the start of a kind of a series where it'll have definitely a map mod. There'll definitely be a decoration placeables type mod, and there'll definitely be a building mod with buildables of the different styles. So armor and weapons currently will be going to as far as Sipta, but there is ideas of taking it further and introducing custom. And if custom weapons and armor are introduced, it means that the enemies, to answer your previous question, will get harder. Because I don't think it should be your level 1, you're swinging, and yes, you can kill a boar in 2 swings, and then by the time you're level 60, you're just walking through killing piles of people with these crazy ass weapons. I think it should scale, so each region will get harder and harder. And the hardest region is going to be the Picts. They're going to be the ultimate hardest people to fight.
Yep, they're doing the old reverse colonization.
Yes. Until much later, of course, when they take over all of the Hyborian kingdoms.
All right. So moving on, something that people would always like to know, especially with what you've sort of been adding here. Obviously, it's not to the same degree as giant projects like Beyond Skyrim, but I know this is one of those things that, and obviously, this is a passion project. It's done in your spare time. It's done when you
Mm.
really feel like, this is the day I really feel like waking up and working on this. What is your estimated, and it is capital E estimated because there's not really an exact time. What would you say your timeline for mods, the mod creation, the different goals are?
So the first big goal that we have so far is going to be pre-release. So there's going to be a time where the Discord will open. People will be able to see what's going on. I'll start development streams as well. I want to get past the kind of boring nitty gritty kind of stuff before I move into that. So there's a pre-release stage, and with pre-release, um, it'll be open for alpha testers, but the alpha testers will be patrons. Basically, I'll open up my Patreon. People will be able to subscribe to help me develop it and spend more time developing it, so I can help with paying the bills at the same time.
Give
Bills
this man
in
money.
the UK are crazy.
He's the closest thing we're getting to like that good Conan RPG that like FromSoft couldn't not FromSoft. What the hell was I? Funcom couldn't release because the dev team who worked on it was canned and pushed into Conan Exiles. This is the closest we're going to get to that. So give him the money.
I'm trying. So that'll be the first big goal, is pre-release, and that's going to be quite a big one because, as I said, streams will happen, Discord will open, and people will be able to get their hands on it. And if they want, of course, I'm not going to force people into it. That I'm projecting and hoping, we are currently on track for that. It's looking like probably the end of this month, which would probably be the 30th of September, maybe the 23rd, but we're aiming for the 30th of September for that.
That's the 30th of September for 2023. If you're watching this in the future and it's already out.
Yeah, and that's pre-release. And then, of course, after pre-release, we'll have the pre-release testers, those who pay to get into it. Will always have an advanced edition, where they'll be always further than current release, just to give them the opportunity to have. They'll be able to give feedback. They'll be able to suggest things. They'll be able to see what's going on and how far we are, and especially when we have special things coming. For example, expeditions, which are going to be a very interesting thing to bring about, all going well.
Very good, very good. Moving back into the mod itself, away from the release of it, what would you say is the thing that you are most happy with adding as mod-specific lore? Would you say there's any mod-specific lore that you specifically love as a story beat for the various different maps people will be going into, for the different dungeons people will be going into? What is the thing that really made you feel like you got to put your personal, your finesse, your own touch on it?
I would probably say, and this might actually not come as a shock to people who play my maps, but for people who don't play my maps, this might come as a shock. But something I'm very well known for is caves. I somehow have gained this opportunity that I just make these really nice caves. So all the caves that I've put into it have been very meticulously laid out and planned out, especially the sorcery cave. So I'm extremely proud of the sorcery cave. I put a lot of work into it. I spent a good day, and I don't mean just 3-4 hours. I mean, it's total about 24 hours of work on just a single cave to make sure every single thing was correct with this cave. And when you find it, if you find it, because I'm also a fan of hiding things, but when you do find it and you walk through it and you realize this is what Funcom could have done with their sorcery caves, but I've taken it to the extreme, and I think people will really appreciate that. I hope. I love it.
Well, your passion for caves can bring us into our final question, and then we'll let you go or let you tell us anything else you want to tell us about the mod. But the final question that we have is, what can you tell us about the geography of the map you've designed for this adventure? Biomes, obstacles, etc. Are there anything, weather events? What is the thing that just nature itself is represented by in this world?
Okay, so there is 3 main biomes. We have the snow biome, which is of course in the mountains. You're not going to find any snow close to the ground. Sorry, Exile lands, but I'm not repeating that. So up in the mountains, you'll find snow. The next biggest is the floodplains. So as we're in Tandara, there's Fort Tandara. So there's 2 main towns in the region. We have Skondara in the northeast, and south of that, where the Sikri and Thunder River meet, is Fort Tandara. Between Fort Tandara and Skondara and the rest of the area is a massive floodplain. So as you're walking there, there is a roadway that you can follow, or you can go off the track. There's water. You will have some flooding there. Not all of it is just going to be flat land. There's some ores there that you might not find elsewhere. All ores as well, I should probably mention, are only currently found in caves. You won't find them just dot around everywhere. But that's just currently. We might change that depending on what people think. And then we move on to the biggest, is just, it's like a fen, it's quite knee-high grass, plenty of flowers, plenty of bushes. The trees are new trees that aren't in any other map, called poplar trees. Basing it off the kind of stories of it has silver bark and nice deep green leaves, and I think it really sets the tone for the map. And if the closer you get to the Black River, which also, if you jump into, is solid black, it's very, very dark, because it's called the Black River for its namesake. It's a very dark river. But between the Black and Thunder River, that spit of land is going to be fairly dangerous. It's full of fen. It has some waterfalls. It has what I call my version of Tellet's Isle, because it looks kind of similar. It's not exactly similar. Mine has more waterfalls and is a little bit smaller, but it's quite nice. Better. Exactly. There's of course caves up there. The only thing I haven't worked out at the moment for the area is going to be, I don't have a green wall because I'm not going to bind people in with the bracelet lore or anything, because it wouldn't make sense. But currently, it's an invisible wall with a red tinge that will poison you if you try and escape. But if anyone does have suggestions on stuff that they might, maybe natural boundaries, I have a couple of natural boundaries, but there's some places like rivers where I can put natural boundaries, and I don't really want to just have an invisible wall. So if anyone has great ideas, I'm always up for hearing them. But if they don't, I'll just leave it as an invisible wall.
I mean, personally, what I would like is just I don't know, if you just want to do poison I guess works. I personally would just like it that it just starts randomly and obsessively spawning giant snakes and ape men that just start ripping you apart just in ridiculous number.
I could do that.
That would be fun.
I could definitely do that.
It would be a challenge too if you can make it to the edge of the map.
Make it to the edge of the map and suddenly the giant spiders from Sipta start spawning.
Yeah, literally the spiders of Lang. Yeah, the fucking hands.
That's the Outer Dark for you, huh?
God, I love the Outer Dark.
Other than that, the only other thing I'd probably add that give you some exclusive news here is what I mentioned earlier is expeditions. So alongside dungeons, I plan to have what I've called expeditions. And this will take you to well-known locations from the books. And you can expect, if there's going to be a story to the map, it's going to be in these locations. So the first one, for example, for the Bosonian area, is going to be we're at a tie. It's either going to be Fort Tusculum or Fort Velitrium. If it's Fort Velitrium, it's going to be completely overrun with picks. You're going to have to go there for your legendary weapons if you want legendary weapons. Follow the story, fight off the picks. They're going to be in the fort. If it's Fort Tusculum, it'll probably be using. I'm going to try and use the new Purge mechanic to like send waves of picks at you instead. So it's under attack instead of already decimated. If all goes well. Otherwise, it will just be there's picks currently attacking it in this location, this location, this location. Fight them off. Job done. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that'll be the first expedition. There is more to come with various locations around that area.
Very good. Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I have nothing else for you. If not, would you like to give an outro? Would you like to tell the people? It's honestly, compared to like a large podcast, we're making very, very good time. And we have like a really good, solid interview so far.
I don't really have anything to add other than actually I will say one thing. So we spoke a lot about Bosonia. And what I will say is that it isn't the only area we'll be visiting. But I won't give any more.
You bastard! Okay, that was Lieutenant Scaro, and we will be signing off. And of course, once again, that is Lieutenant Scaro on Steam Workshop. You can find him at Lieutenant Scaro on Steam Workshop. And what's the Patreon going to be called, my friend?
Lieutenant Scaro.
Lieutenant Scaro on Patreon. Again, the closest thing we're getting to that unreleased Conan RPG. You really, really, really need to donate. Really support this project. It's going to bring you a lot of joy. It's going to get me back into Conan Exiles. I'm one of like the 2 people playing Age of Conan in my spare time.
I'm on there sometimes.
Yes, you
different
are.
time zones.
Wait, PvP, Crom server or PvP?
I haven't played it in a while, but I think the last time me and my friends were all on PvP.
Ah, goddamn. Okay, fine. I'll make a PvP character because
over in Tortage. We do have Crom characters.
For role play. We all just need to hit each other. It's fine.
We do have Crom characters as well. Don't worry.